And we are being joined in by Shubhendu Ghosh of DD India. Shubhendu, there have been several ups and downs in the US-Russia ties ever since Donald Trump became the president. Do you think this upcoming meeting of the two leaders will bring an end to the conflict?
Good morning, Akshay. The high-stakes meeting is scheduled to take place 15th of August in Alaska. The expectations are very high. Last time President Trump and President Putin met was in 2019. The circumstances were entirely different. Now, the stakes might be high, but there is no easy solution, we understand, to the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict that enters its fourth year. What are going to be the natures of negotiations? President Trump has dropped some hint when he talks about swapping of territories between Russia and Ukraine, although the word swapping is interesting because the realities of the battleground have transformed since last year, 2024, when Ukraine did make some gains in Kursk region of Russia. But as the things stand now, it is Russia which appears to have an upper hand over Ukraine in terms of territorial gains as well. And the swapping of territory, sources inform, could be about the earlier annexed southern peninsula of Crimea and the gains that Russia has made in the eastern Donbas region of Ukraine. But we also have to see this meeting from the perspective of the players who are absent, who are going to be absent from the table.
Right.
Most importantly, President Zelensky, the party to the conflict, is not going to be there. He's not on the table. And also the NATO, the European allies of Ukraine and Russia have also been once again, remember, sidelined by President Donald Trump. So in that sense, the negotiations that happen, will it be acceptable to the other side? How will Ukraine
Absolutely.
and the European allies respond to it? Would be interesting to watch out. What kind of negotiations take place between President Putin and President Trump? Only time will tell. However, we know that like President Trump's other approach, other policies, his own approach to Russia in the recent months that we've seen has been rather inconsistent. And we'll have to see what kind of posturing happens from the United States side when President Putin and President Trump meet face to face.
Well, of course, Shubhendu, this has been a very, very inconsistent stand of Russia as far as Ukraine is concerned. So, that's my second question as well. Now, Donald Trump is saying that Zelensky has to get ready to sign something, which obviously refers to the swapping of the territory, as you have rightly mentioned. So, how do you see this meeting play out with the Ukrainians as well as the European side?
Well, taking cue from what I earlier said, Akshay, the fact that Zelensky is absent from that negotiation table makes this whole exercise highly problematic, although greatly anticipated. Now, signing on a minerals deal is by Ukrainian leader is very different from signing on a document which makes him almost surrender territories of Ukraine to Russia. That is something he has been arguing that Ukraine has been fighting for. It's a fourth year of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, remember, and the conflict has been dragging on. There are a lot of setbacks that Ukraine has faced, but time and again, Ukrainian president has made a point that compromising on territorial sovereignty is going to be a very, very difficult thing for Zelensky to accept, and maybe, in fact, unacceptable. And he would have to rely on his European allies now, because what happens to Ukraine now,
Right.
after, if the peace deal works out, will also pave the way for the security infrastructure of Europe, of the NATO allies as a whole. The cracks in the Western alliances that we've seen in the past between US and NATO allies in Europe, are those fissures going to become wider? All of that depends upon what is negotiated between Russia and the United States. But it is important that the ceasefire that the two leaders are aiming from, each party is approaching the conflict in a different manner. For President Trump, it is going to be about personal branding, peacemaker, ending US investment into the conflict. For President Putin, it is going to be its own security infrastructure vis-a-vis NATO. For Ukraine and Europe, much of it is going to be really existential in terms of their security concerns. What happens now remains to be seen, Akshay.
Well, thank you so much, Shubhendu, for giving us a well-rounded perspective. And also, this may mean that there can be certain implications for Zelensky as a domestic politician as well.